What is up, my people? In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about the question: consider the view that the spoken language is more important than the written form. Now, this question is another one of those questions that's going to be easy to do. So, without further ado, let's go straight into the question. Three things that you need to consider here. Number one, spoken language. Number two, written form. And number three, which one is more important? So, let's first talk about the comparison between spoken language and the written form. Throughout time immemorial, people, one of the greatest romancers have always articulated their romance through the use of, I feel, through the use of the written word. Most women feel like it's more meaningful, more authentic and more genuine if you actually took the time to sit down and write them a love letter instead of just shooting off the top of your mouth, right, when you see them. But that's not what we're gonna... That's just me trying to illustrate that to you. Don't write that exactly in your essay. Talk about how the written form of romance and love letters are basically conveying the message that actions speak louder than words. So, that is what most people say. I'm here to say that there is an alternative perspective. An alternative perspective is this. I think that spoken language actually conveys so much more information than the written word. Because number one, even if you can't see the speaker, these words now come with intonation. So that is an additional layer of value added on top of just being able to know what the idea is. You are also able to tell the speaker's intonation, and that gives you more information about what he or she is actually saying. It could be sarcasm, it could be joy, it could be happiness, it could be sorrow. Just from the intonation of the words itself, you can tell what the speaker's true intent is, as opposed to a poor writer who might not be able to convey these emotions and these intentions, or even if they are, they have to spend so much more words to do it when they could have just used their intonations. And if you include the fact that from a speaker's point of view, if you include the idea that you can actually see the person speaking, that gives you an idea into the person's body language. And what does body language tell you? Body language is almost 97% of communication, right? You get so much more information. So I would say that spoken language is definitely, from a social perspective, from trying to understand each other, I would say that the spoken language is definitely more important than the written form. Now, critics might argue that the written form of the of communication might actually tend to be more economical, right? Because you have to sit down, think, edit, right? You can retract your words, you can say things better, you can have better iterations of your message. It could be more efficient because if you have written it down or typed it out, you can reprint it, right? But I like to argue, this is what critics say, but I like to argue that with today's technologies, the spoken form can do exactly the same thing. This video that you're watching. Right after this, I could edit all the useless parts out. That's video editing. You can watch it 1,000 times. It's the same as reprinting. So I argue that with today's technology, speech, the spoken form of the word, is equally economical and equally efficient as the written word. So not much going for the written word there. Finally, let's talk about the political perspective. Have you ever heard of a politician who wrote his way to success? And I mean wrote, I mean W-R-O-T-E. Have you ever heard of someone who's done that? Or is it really most of the time a politician who's so convincing with his speeches that he brings a crowd to their feet and convinces them of his ideas, his ideals, and gets them to vote for him? Winston Churchill, magnificent orator, primary 6 education. I don't think he's writing very convincingly, but he's definitely speaking very convincingly. Lee Kuan Yew, a very convincing, very convincing orator back in the day, in those young and fiery days where he had to convince Singaporeans of our need to survive. But I can bet you this, Lee Kuan Yew was a very good writer as well, because he was a lawyer. So Lee Kuan Yew is in a class of his own. He's an exception. What I feel is that most politicians today, they have to speak, they have to convince, and from the political perspective, the power of spoken words is so much more important than being able to write. But if you're really one of the best leaders out there, then definitely you have to be good at both. You're going to have to be good at writing as well, because you have to write good policies to convince the people around you. Now that we have addressed all these issues, my conclusion would be that the spoken language is more important than the written form. I would like to hear your thoughts, so leave me comments in the comment section below. And as always, practice writing your essays before you watch these videos.